Okay guys, I feel like it's actually happening. Loki is really looking like a good guy, and based on his words at the end of this chapter, he's really not looking like the scary demonic villain that all the giants think that he is. And yes, I want to talk in depth with you today about how far exactly this Loki good guy train will actually take us. Like, will he just be an ally during Elbaf? Will he be a future ally like Yamato? Please, dear God, don't do that to me again. Or will he potentially actually turn out to be a Straw Hat, like I've actually predicted in a previous video right here before the arc even started. Anyway, you get the idea. I am very excited about Loki being an ally, and I won't lie, I would have been pretty damn sad if Loki had actually turned out to be bad after all the crazy setup we've been getting. Very, very happy that isn't the case, but what's even better is that the end of this chapter is pretty clearly hinting, I think, that Loki's father Harald, or possibly the Elder Giant Jarul, were the actual bad guys, and Loki had to kill his father in order to protect his country. And based on everything that we've seen so far from Loki, I'm kind of getting more and more of the socially awkward Zorro vibes. Like, why can't Loki just come out and be a kind person? No, instead he has to hide it behind this wall of being the big tough giant. Like, even last chapter, he didn't tell Luffy or his brother about the Holy Knights, or that they needed to go back up to the Sunlight Realm to protect everyone and the children. Nope, instead of doing, you know, the easy thing, he instead chose to drop lightning that started a massive fire that will probably then force them to go back there anyways. You kind of see what I mean here? Like, you could have easily just said something like, hey guys, there are these really bad people from the government up there, you should kind of go check it out, we need to go. Instead, he just creates a situation where they need to go up there to stop the fire, which will get them to probably fight the Holy Knights anyway. But such a big brain Loki play, also that he can avoid having to actually reveal that he's genuinely worried about the country and the Holy Knights. You get what I'm saying, right? Or am I too lost in the Loki sauce already here? No matter what you think though, we can definitely say that at this point, the Loki becoming an ally stocks, other than the Tesla stocks, are soaring to the moon right now, up there with NL Bitcoin or something. But what does this mean exactly? Is he just gonna be with us for this arc, or will my Loki joining the crew fantasy actually come true? And I know it's been a while since I've been talking about all this, so let me break down why I think that it is even more likely than ever at this point that Loki will become a Straw Hat. And first of all, come on, how can you not want this to happen? Like, the sheer aura of Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Loki rolling up to a fight would just be off the friggin' charts. It would be kind of like a wet dream for the One Piece animators, who could actually find a good reason to go all out with, you know, that blinding aura effects that they really clearly love to do so badly. But you see, it's not just pure hype that's got me thinking about Loki joining the crew, because there are also some other pretty hard and solid pieces of evidence from the last few chapters, and this chapter that we're going to talk about starting right now with the Harley mural right here. Because remember, there is not only one giant on the left side here fighting with Joy Boy. No, there are two. And you know, it just so happens that the one fighting literally right next to Joy Boy is the ancient giant with the horns here, which at this point I'm just pretty sure is gonna be Loki. Because come on, the horns are exactly the same as Loki's, and he's even got the same hair as in the mural. So I feel like it's basically Oda screaming at us that Loki is gonna be in this final war by Luffy's side. Now, you might be saying, well, that doesn't mean he will be an actual Straw Hat, and besides, how would he even fit onto the Thousand Sunny? He's literally like 10 times the size of the Straw Hat ship. And well, my friend, do I have some answers for you. And let me first just take a few sips of copium here before we get into this. Because I'm about to explain how Loki could still sail with the crew, you know, without completely wrecking the Thousand Sunny. And for that, I do want to go back to the mural, because if you've seen my full breakdown of the Harley mural, then you might remember that this ancient giant has the same sort of pattern on his clothes that the giant serpent on the right side of the mural has as well. Now, I won't go into all of the details on what this could mean once again, but to me, it certainly tells us that this giant is gonna have some legendary powers on par with something, you know, like the actual serpent that we see in the mural here. Now, does that mean that Loki's gonna be breathing fire like we see in the mural? It would be pretty cool, and seeing as we already know Loki has a legendary devil fruit power, honestly, anything's possible, especially since we now know that Elbaf's weakness is fire and lightning, and well, we've already seen lightning, so why not fire? Now, the point I want to really make here, though, is that Loki is special in more ways than just one, so he is almost certainly gonna be a very important part of the story story going forward, at least in my opinion. And as you know, there is no better place for him to do exactly that than with the Straw Hats, who are the main characters. I mean, come on, let's be real here. Who do we really want fighting with Luffy at the end of the story? Hyruujin? Really? The giant who would probably get washed by Nami at this point? Okay, maybe that's a little bit harsh, but you get my point. There is no way that Hyruujin is gonna be the major giant player in the final war, because yeah, the dude is just not that guy. I mean, I can maybe imagine him leading an army of giants rather than being an actual strong solo fighter in that final war. Plus, if Loki does join the crew and sail away with the Straw Hats, then Hyruujin has one less person to worry about on his path to becoming king of all the giants everywhere. Or if you wanted to take it even another step further, maybe Loki is the key to uniting all of the giants around the world under Hyruujin's expanded kingdom of giants as well. So their dad's wish could actually come true from this chapter after all, just probably not in the way that he actually intended it to come true. All right, and all of that is good, of course, like yay for the kingdom of giants and whatsoever, but what about Loki sailing with the crew? Well, sure, it might be a little bit of a stretch to imagine this at first, and we still don't know what Loki's powers really are, but one idea we had pretty early on in the Elbaf arc is that he has some sort of shape-shifting devil fruit power that potentially could let him shrink down to human size whenever he wants. So, bam, there we go. One human-sized Loki ready to sail along with the Straw Hats. I mean, he kind of has all the ingredients of a great Straw Hat anyway. A dream of, quote-unquote, destroying the world, which I'm pretty sure we'll find out that it doesn't actually mean conquering and burning the world like Kaido wanted. You know, probably more along the lines of tearing down the corrupt world order and, you know, potentially physically breaking the world, which is something that the Harley texts, you know, mention as well, that you might have to destroy the world to renew, like make it anew in a better way. You know, the entire Luffy Fisherman Island prophecy and stuff like that. All right, but we're getting a little bit off track here. Loki, Straw Hat crew member, focus Mono. All right, so he's got a dream of changing the world that can be fulfilled by sailing with the Straw Hats. And then the other requirements that we usually have for someone joining the crew potentially is a tragic backstory, which, oh boy, let me tell you, I'm expecting a massive tearjerker for a backstory for him here in Elbaf. I'm expecting the secretly abusive father plotting against his country and the tragic outcast child who no one really understands and who got blamed for everything. I'm ready, Oda, I think at least. Hit me right in the feels with that backstory, please, ASAP. Which just kind of means that the third thing that Loki would need to be part of the Straw Hats is a specific role in the crew, because every member has one. But I'll be kind of honest with you all, this one still seems a little bit open. Like, we don't know exactly what his role could look like, since we don't know his full story and his full powers yet. At this point, if you put a gun to my head and I had to guess, I would say something like it could be related to, you know, something with the Painter Stones maybe that allow the giants to sail through the air, or maybe even something to do with the weather, since Loki's hammer seems to have storm powers. Or he could be the Outlook because he's really damn big. But there's of course still plenty of time to figure all of this out, so I'm not too worried about that specific thing for now. All you really need to know is that I want Loki on the crew. Please, Oda, give me this one thing. Like, you already ripped my heart out during Wano by leaving Yamato behind, so please don't do it a second time. Please. I just need another Straw Hat. We're getting these way too rarely. And as much as I hate to say it, we do have to consider that this might be a real possibility. Because if you really think about it, we've only had one new crew member join this entire post-time skip, Jinbei. So maybe Oda's just done with the entire adding more people to the crew directly. And I mean, I do get that in a lot of ways, don't get me wrong. He's already kind of struggling to spend enough time on the crew members as it is, you know, on each single one. I mean, just think about how much development we've had for Chopper or Brook or Frankie, and I mean, even Jinbei before this arc. Not a whole lot, if I'm being completely honest. So would Oda really add yet another big personality to the crew that he would have to spend time on each single arc going forward from Elbaf? I mean, I still think he should, but it's possible that Loki will simply become an ally like Katakuri or Yamato to fight in the final war instead. Because Oda gave us even more layers of the conflict between the two giant princes. Because in this little flashback right here, we see that their father actually wanted them to grow up and rule together, but clearly Hyruujin does not really love that idea all too much. I mean, it seems like Loki straight up bullied him for years. Come on though, that's just some tough brotherly love. I guess you would probably feel insecure and threatened just like Hyrogen if you had a younger brother who was literally 3 times your size and just beyond broken in terms of power. But I gotta say that all of this brotherly drama is really making me excited to see just how this narrative arc is gonna play out, because the starting point is obviously not the best. Hyrogen even wants to kill Loki right here, right now, because of their past trauma, and of course for Loki killing his father. But the last line of the chapter seems to be hinting at the main reason things are gonna change between them in the future. The truth about why Loki actually had to kill Harold. Because very clearly, at least Loki seems to think that there was a more than valid reason to do that. We've speculated before throughout various chapter reviews that maybe Harold was working some black market deals with the Void government or something, selling out Elbaf, you know, a little under the table money or some promises of power, if you know what I mean. But whatever it actually is, Loki apparently felt like Harold needed to go for the sake of the country, and honestly, the final line is a little bit unclear about if Hyrogen already knows the true reason or not. I mean, I've seen a couple of different translations, and it's been really hard getting my hands on the original Japanese one in time, but I think we get some cleanup here in the next few chapters anyway. Like, I can just see now a little mini therapy session arc with Dr. Luffy. I'm sure that would go decently well, but honestly, it kind of seems like that is what these princes need at this point. All right, but enough now of that brotherly love slash hate stuff. I want to now get back to the possibility of Loki pulling a Yamato here and just staying in Elbaf after this arc until the final war. Because besides the chance of Loki and Hyrogen ruling Elbaf together, Loki might still want to convince everyone that he isn't, you know, such a bad guy after all, and he might need to stay in Elbaf a little bit longer in order to do that. And, you know, then later maybe join up with Luffy and the Grand Fleet once, you know, stuff is actually happening. But I don't want to lie to you, there is a chance that all of this goes down way more tragically than anything we've talked about so far. I mean, the whole country thinks that Loki is a villain, so what better way for him to prove them all wrong than by sacrificing himself to save everyone? And as much as I'd hate to see it, I can definitely see his character arc going in that direction as well, as, you know, a sort of sacrificial hero who nobody understood until the very last moment. Not what I would love to see, I want to see him as a Straw Hat, but we can't ignore that this is a real possibility as well. Or, I guess, you know, maybe he just ditches everyone and goes back to doing whatever he was, you know, doing out at sea before Shanks defeated him. Now, to be fair, we don't really know what happened between them or what Loki was doing out in the world, or if they even actually fought, so maybe he's got some secret mission that he still needs to complete and he just wants to be freed in order to complete that. Or, let's be honest, maybe he just wants to find a wife. I mean, we're getting so much about love in this arc, which we'll talk about more coming in just a moment, but like, can my man Loki just disappear and settle down somewhere and start a family? Honestly, would be sad to see him go, but who could blame him? But knowing Oda, that isn't very likely whatsoever, especially with all the hype surrounding Loki at this point already. Like, him just going like, I'm gonna go look for Lola now, I'm out, like, would be kind of weird, but at least gotta mention it. But before I go any further here, I'm super curious to hear what you think is gonna happen, like, right now with Loki, because obviously if Luffy took him out with a light tap, then he is clearly in no condition whatsoever to actually fight. I mean, Luffy's even really worried about him dying, so I can't really see him getting up and joining the fight in his current state anytime soon. So is he just gonna be out of the fight entirely? It's not like the Holy Knights are gonna, you know, just wait around for Loki to heal. So what do I think is actually gonna happen here? Well, we could get a case like with Zoro and Wano, where Chopper gives him some super adrenaline healing drug thingy that lets him actually fight for a short time before then suffering the consequences later. Yikes. I don't really want to see that based on all the damage that Loki has already taken so far, but there is another possibility that I actually haven't seen discussed in quite a while, and you probably forgot about this too, but there is a chance that Loki's legendary devil fruit can just straight up let him heal himself. And in case you're wondering, it would absolutely make sense that he hasn't done that yet, since he he still has on one of the Sea Prism stones that are suppressing his Devil Fruit powers. But maybe that's how he convinces everyone to let him completely go, because if they need his help in the fight, but he can only heal if he's completely free, then I think that would be a pretty good reason to let him go completely, don't you think? Anyways, I just can't see Loki sitting out the entire fighting on Elbaf, so something has to happen that gets him back on his feet here. But there's also yet another way that he could 100% heal completely, and that's by joining the magical and mythical official Ohara Patreon. Like, seriously guys, it is legendary, believe me, and by joining, you too become a true member of our pirate crew and get instant access to bonus content that you won't see anywhere else on this channel. I'm talking about all our artwork, early chapter reactions, polls, exclusive discussions and content, and much more. And on top of that, every single dollar you spend there goes right back into making better content for you right here, so we can fix you with that perfect dose of One Piece every single week. So if you're interested in joining the crew, check out the Patreon with the link below. But now, as you might have noticed, I'm a little bit hyped for Loki's future in the arc, but my god, did you see the Holy Knight's power in this chapter as well? Like, it's kind of, I mean, it might have even been the main thing. I'm just extremely hyped for Loki. I needed to talk about it, but my god, they are absolutely broken. I mean, killing him can literally force people to go to sleep and then pull out whatever they're dreaming about. Like, are you kidding me? This is an insane power. Maybe even more busted in some ways than what we've seen from Luffy's Gear 5th power in some way. Like, I want to make sure you're understanding exactly what this fruit really can do. Just imagine that Summers, or really anyone, just starts dreaming of a monster that's literally as tall as the Atom Tree. And then, based on what we've seen so far, it seems like killing him can just straight up manifest that very monster and have it start fighting on his side. And now you tell me, like, how absurd is this Devil Fruit? And I'm still trying to figure out how Oda keeps getting away with giving these disgustingly powerful fruits to these derpy looking characters, but yeah, it's One Piece. That's kind of what we signed up for, am I right? But now, before I go way too crazy with this, I kinda guess we have to admit that there might be some limits to killing him powers as well that we need to talk about. And we do still have some serious questions about it as well. For example, we can see that killing him can put people to sleep like he did with the Giant Kids and even Summers, but does that work on people who have really powerful haki? You know what I mean, right? Because we do know that some Devil Fruit powers that manipulate other people can be just straight up hard countered by really powerful haki, so I'm wondering if killing him will even be able to do anything to the stronger Straw Hats like Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. Seems possible, but unlikely, so who knows, maybe the power is just that truly OP and he can just straight up do whatever he wants to whoever he pleases, which sounds very wrong. And I mean, he's a Holy Knight, Celestial Dragon. Probably accurate. Anyways, I'm getting a little bit of a crazy idea actually right now, because I think at this point, Luffy should be physically able to take on, you know, any of the Holy Knights maybe. But what if killing him could actually pull out some of Luffy's nightmares? Like, I guess the only real nightmares he has would be about either losing one of his friends, or even worse, I kind of wonder if Luffy still dreams about losing his brother Ace. Like, can you even... Oh my god, can you imagine Luffy having to fight a nightmare version of his dead brother? That would be insanely messed up for Luffy, and at the same time, it might be the only way we could get a good fight out of Luffy versus the Holy Knights potentially, unless they're just insanely broken altogether. But hey, who knows if we'll ever get to see something like that? I have very high expectations though, I gotta say. Now, when it comes to the other Straw Hats though, like, I really don't know. Like, seems like Usopp is a prime candidate for the nightmare power. You know, he's got some serious fears hidden away in his brain. Actually, it could be a pretty sick way for Usopp to literally face his fears in Elbaf. You know, imagine they all come out and he has to take them down one by one. Actually, I kind of want that to happen right now. But okay, overall, I'm kind of just wondering how long Killingham's powers are, you know, actually gonna be relevant in the story. Because if you wanted to be a bit of a douche and be really critical here, you could say that they're just the perfect powers for this very specific exact situation. situation right now on Elbaf. Weak giant children who have a lot of fears. Just seems like it's really convenient for his powers. So will killing him just be defeated in this arc and then we'll just never see him again? Maybe, but then again, his powers are also quite literally tied to dreams or nightmares, which goes along with one of the main themes of the entire story. So who knows, maybe he could be playing a way bigger role in the future as well, potentially. Or maybe his powers truly come directly from Emu and, you know, the powers could show up again that way when we see them fight at some point. I know we got confirmation of devil fruits in this chapter. By the way, the first actual dragon type fruit, that's pretty hype because Kaido is a fish, but I still kind of think that all the Holy Knight's powers are in some way or form directly tied to Emu, so we could see them show up again in the future, even if Killingham is defeated here. Also, did any of my other Pokemon fans out there notice what they call the nightmare creatures here? Muma. Does that ring a bell for you? Well, if not, let me clue you in on some Pokemon knowledge here, because Muma is also the Japanese name for Mischievous, who happens to be known as the Demon of Dreams. Just pointing that out here because we all know that Oda is a Pokemon fan, in case you didn't know that, but the bigger point to make here is that the actual word Muma has a lot of similarity to Emu's name as well. So we do have a dark ruler called Emu and nightmare creatures called Muma. It's at least a little bit similar, you hear it, right? So is Oda hinting that these devil fruit powers are connected to Emu somehow? Just saying, because I think it's very possible. Now, that's Killingham, and his powers are more or less what we expected from the previous chapter, even though, again, I think crazy broken, but boy oh boy, I did not expect what we got with Saint Summer's powers in this chapter either. Or maybe I kind of did, but not the way we got it. You see, last chapter I kind of thought that maybe Summers was the one manifesting the giant kid's nightmares since he was talking about fears, but that just straight up turns out to be all part only of Killingham's powers. So instead, I guess we were kind of right, focusing on the whole flower and thorns wipe that he has going on, as we did in the Who's the Forest God video we talked about recently, because turns out that is his literal powers. But the mad genius Oda didn't just stop right there. No, he went and combined his thorn abilities with the power of love. And I think that was quite insane if you ask me, because as we see in this chapter, Summer's powers work by surrounding its targets in invisible thorns, and if someone touches them, they get shredded by those thorns. Or maybe he can just use invisible thorns in general, which would be kind of sick as well. And like, the interesting part is that the power of the thorn scales with the love that that person has for Summer's targets. And so obviously, the giants love their children, so they have no chance of breaking through Summer's powers here. But that of course makes you beg the question, what would happen if someone like, I don't know, Zoro comes in and tries to rescue the children instead? We know his only real loves are sleeping, booze, training, and I guess you can count the Straw Hat. So would Summer's powers even have any effect on Zoro if he were to touch the children? I don't know, honestly, but I'm pretty sure this is only one of Summer's real powers, and maybe he can do a lot more in a traditional fight against someone like Zoro than we might be expecting here. But one thing that I am very sure about is that Summers is gonna fight Scopper Gaban in this arc. Like, this has to happen, right? Scopper is literally called the Minister of Love, and so far Summers is proving to be about the most twisted, sick, masochistic kind of love villain you could possibly imagine. We also have, of course, Sanji's burning passion, so I think we might even get a big whole fight about love altogether, which I'm gonna break down even more in a video on Tuesday, because I think love in One Piece, guys, might not just be, you know, these guys being weird. I think that love in One Piece is an actual power that people can and have used to become strong and being connected to hockey. So, you know, watch out for that video. I think it's going to be fun. We're going to talk about that on Tuesday, but just a random thought I had also. Anyone else wonder if Summers could have the powers of the forest god mentioned in the Harley text? Again, I mentioned this earlier. Like anyone else? I said this before. Honestly, I'm probably gonna say this every time we get powers related to nature now, but is he the forest god? I think it's at least still on the table with what we've seen in this chapter. But let's now shift over to Gunko, because I've got to say, she is getting more and more interesting and intriguing every single time we see her. Because you probably missed this, but I think Oda dropped yet another massive clue in this chapter that Gunko was not born a celestial dragon and might have actually joined the Holy Knights extremely recently. Because just look at this. Did you notice how Summers and Killingham eat the food and, you know, just treat it like normal. Nothing special food because they are gods. They only eat the best food. But then we get Gunko geeking out completely like it's the best thing that she's ever had in her entire life. So that kind of makes me seriously wonder if Gunko is actually not used to eating any type of good food and only very recently has gotten to eat this type of stuff as well. I mean, just piling on more evidence that Gunko might not be who we all think she is. Now, if I had to pick anyone to fight Gunko in this very arc, to me, Zoro actually makes the most sense to slice up her arrow attacks. I mean, these are physical arrows, so I assume they can be hit by other attacks, and with what we learn about Gunko's arrows predicting the future, I kind of wonder if this could be, you know, a great way that Oda has Zoro unlock his future sight abilities as well as a way to start countering Gunko's abilities. Now, I do have to admit something, and it's kind of an L I have to take here, at least for now, because I do have to point out that with the official confirmation of the Holy Knight's Devil Fruits, it does seem like these powers are not only blessings from Imu like I previously speculated. I mean, ever since we saw Shamrock and his sword Cerberus powers, I've been kind of wondering if all the Gorosei and Holy Knight powers would just be straight up demonic abilities from the secret ruler of the world. And again, as I said earlier, I still think this might turn out to be the case in the end, but for now, I do have to clearly admit that unless Oda is just straight up lying to us here, it does seem like there are some actual devil fruits involved, more so than any crazy demon powers, which, like what we saw with the Gorosei. And since this might not be the case with the Gorosei, and we still have to learn a lot about these demon abilities, like, there's a really interesting question I've been getting into recently, because you might be shocked to hear that Oda might have designed every single Straw Hat based on a demonic entity or being from mythology. That's right, our favorite little pirate crew might actually be based on ancient demons, you know, just saying Ashura and Ifrit Jamba and, you know, Luffy, you probably can guess. But if you want to hear all about how each Straw Hat is inspired by these mythical demons, you can watch that video right here. And otherwise, thanks for watching, and thanks so much to our Patreons. You guys are just the freaking best. Love you. Thanks for watching. Like, now I'm gonna go or turn off the camera. All right, see you on Tuesday.